Thank you, Megan. Thank you guys. I have to say this again. Thank you for spending these last 2 days with us. You need to know what incredible energy you bring to this institution. It's been a gift. So I can think of no better way to end your stay here than to hear from our featured guest this morning. Let me see, where do I start? Pearl Cleage is obviously one of the finest playwrights in the country. She has premiered plays on this stage, downstairs in the Hurt Stage, Flying West, which premiered here in 1994, has had a production every single year since it was produced. I think that's remarkable. Last year we celebrated the 20th anniversary of Blues for an Alabama Sky here on our stage. But she's not only a fine playwright, she's also a New York Times best-selling novelist. Her first novel was an Oprah Book Club pick, which sold millions of copies. And you know, when Oprah wants a poem to commemorate an event, Pearl is who she calls. It's extraordinary. Thanks to the Mellon Foundation, we are able to call her our Alliance Playwright in Residence, which is so incredibly rewarding for all of us and for the entire city of Atlanta. And I'm delighted that I not only get to call her the Playwright in Residence here, but I get to call her my dear friend. So please, join me in welcoming one of our country's finest playwrights, one of our country's finest writers, one of Atlanta's crown jewels, and one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Please welcome Pearl Cleage.
Good morning. Good morning. I can tell these are educators' hours as opposed to theater people's hours. This is not near the time we're usually up doing what we do, but it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for having me. In the theater, when we say between engagements, we usually mean unemployed. We mean that moment of seeking a job, any job, I need this job in the theater, because this is the life we've chosen. And there are never as many parts as there are players, and audiences forget you so quickly, even if you dazzled and delighted them with your most recent offering. Even if they rose to their feet and cheered and whistled and roared their approval night after night as you stood in the light before them, opening your arms to receive their love, knowing even in that moment that they are fickle. Their love always available to the next one to stand before them, stripped of all defenses except the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And no other way to tell it except this one ancient exchange that began as we huddled together around the campfire, whispering the tales of sheroism and heroism and tenderness and resilience that would bind us and find us all these centuries later, still gathering together in the growing darkness as the house goes to half, and we turn our attention to the stage with the hope of seeing ourselves, warts and all, but always holding out for the possibility of redemption. And I'm not talking about happy endings neatly tied with a bow, although I am a fan of exactly those kinds of endings when the story you are telling leads you there. I'm talking about an ending that in some small way puts forward the unshakable idea that we are without a doubt complicated beings who can be counted upon to do the wrong thing as much as we ever do the right one. But we never stop trying, and we never tire of watching our surrogate doppelgangers from Actors' Equity show us how we look as we go about that all-too-human task of separating right from wrong as the wheat from the chaff. Because when we who have chosen this life do it right, the people who have trusted us with 2 hours of their precious time cheer and weep and head out to the parking lot refreshed, revitalized, and renewed. And that is why we continue to do this work, in spite of the seemingly endless challenges we face in order to get it done, in spite of all those times when we are between engagements and the people we love begin to gently suggest other better paying options, without understanding that while we would always like to be paid fairly, money was not the main reason we started doing this work in the first place. We wanted to change the world one head, one heart at a time. And even though that kind of unabashed idealism is often dismissed in the sometimes cynical times in which we live, I believe I am among friends and will not be judged harshly for admitting that the transformation of human beings into more fully evolved versions of their former unenlightened selves is at the heart of why I write, and may even have a place on the list of reasons why you decided to become an educator. So it is a pleasure to be here today to share some thoughts with you about tradition and transformation, about what we do and about what you do, and how our continuing conversations cannot help but strengthen our joint efforts, as well as our individual missions, and in the process vastly improve our chances not only of surviving, but of continuing to successfully guide and provoke the aforementioned transformations. And not a moment too soon. It is my feeling that what we do as artists and as educators has never been more critical to the survival of our nation and of our world. Our lessons of right and wrong and good and evil and hope and despair, our stories of what it means to be truly, deeply human in all our terribleness, those stories, those lessons are at the heart of what holds us together in these strange and beautiful days. I watched my mother do this work as a Detroit public school teacher for 25 years. I even had the excruciatingly weird experience of having to call her Mrs. Clegg when I found myself a student in her 4th grade social studies class at Theodore Roosevelt Elementary School, and she explained to me that calling her mommy in that context might seem to stack the deck in my favor when it came to grades. When I go back to Detroit, I sometimes meet people who remember her as a kind and caring teacher who had a lasting impact on their lives, but all I remember is the stress of trying not to call her out of her school appropriate name. At the beginning of every semester, I would help my mother set up her classroom, cutting out block letters for the bulletin boards while she put up posters, calendars, photographs, schedules, and instructions. She always had a plant on her desk, usually a philodendron, 2 dark blue erasers at the ready, and a new stick of chalk, so she could write her school appropriate name on the blackboard by way of introduction on the ritual first day. When all supplies are in place, all signs are auspicious, and the house goes to half for the last bell rings, and all the years and hours of preparation that have brought us here will be tested in ways we cannot yet imagine. Although it may not be apparent to the untrained eye, theater artists and educators are members of the same tribe. The challenges we face are in many ways identical. We are both required to stand in front of strangers known to us as audience, known to you as students, quickly gain their trust, and then hold their attention for a set amount of time with a dizzying array of tricks, talents, tall tales, and transformational moments. Like you, theater artists are hoping that at the end of the brief period we are allowed with each group, those with whom we have shared our hearts and to whom we have bared our souls will emerge challenged and changed, enriched by the knowledge we have tried to impart, ennobled by the ideals we have instilled, and filled with the magic and mystery of their own radiant humanity. So this is the life we've chosen. But how do we do it? This amazing, exhausting, transformative work. How do we translate what we know into the language these strangers speak? How do we adapt our tricks and tall tales to an era when people think in 8-second bursts and babies know how to work a smartphone before they are toilet trained? How do we compete for their attention when they are addicted to their devices, to the near exclusion of the face-to-face messiness required by live human interaction? For many people in my generation, often called boomers by those outside of our demographic, there is the added challenge of realizing that despite our brave talk of 60 being the new 40, to the young people we are attempting to teach, advise, entertain, enlighten, our opinions are largely considered beside the point. And the experiences that shaped our lives and now inform our art and our work, movements, assassinations, rallies, revolutions, are the stuff of history assignments to be found in Edgar Allan Poe's quaint and curious volumes of forgotten lore. The tactics and strategies we employed to confront the issues of our day are regarded as relics of another time and a very different place. If I had any doubts about this, they were effectively put to rest a few months ago when I picked up a copy of the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and found a front-page story about what the paper called the next generation of activists. Being a lifelong activist myself, for whom movements were like mother's milk, I welcomed a chance to meet the young people who were gathering under the umbrella of Black Lives Matter, to become an active part of the ongoing struggle to make America a country where there truly is liberty and justice for all. It did not go well. "This is not your granddaddy's civil rights movement," said Mary Hooks, 33, an organizer of the Atlanta Black Lives Matter chapter. "We're not sitting around waiting for someone in a suit to come and save us." The article went on to talk to other activists and outline their plans for 2016, but I couldn't get Mary's words out of my head. "This is not your granddaddy's civil rights movement." Now, I'm not quite old enough to be Mary's grandmother, but I'm close enough to know she was talking about me. She was talking about the people I met as passionate revolutionaries, often dressed in dashikis or overalls, who were, by the time she met them, respectable old men in suits and fragile old women in sensible shoes, who liked to talk about the good old days when Martin and Malcolm and Medgar walked the earth and they were young and strong and fearless. I felt the space between the generations, the space between me and them, in a way I never had before, and I didn't like it one bit. When you're young, you don't worry much about communicating with the older generation, unless they are in a position to grade you, or cast you, or offer you that dream job that pays well, satisfies your soul, and makes your grandmother so proud of you she can't stop smiling. Otherwise, the older generation is presumed to be on the opposite side of most issues, frightened by the future, dismissive of youthful concerns, quick to take over the conversation, unwilling to listen. Tired of being told to go slow or how we did it first and did it better, young people begin to tune us out. I remember that feeling. It was my generation that said, "Don't trust anyone over 30, and we meant it. So I don't take it personally if it's difficult for young people to listen deeply to those of us for whom 30 is a distant memory. We have the same problem with them, especially since any advice we offer is assumed to be about as relevant as ancient drawings on a dry cave wall. Strange and mysterious, but so far removed from the world of Snapchat and Instagram and Twitter that they might as well be messages from Mars. So that is our challenge, yours and mine. We have to find a way to bridge that gap if we want to get these strangers ready for the not too far off future when the machines fail us and the environment reminds us in the most forceful terms that it's not nice to take Mother Nature for granted, and the world as we know it changes into a place we no longer recognize, a place where we scribble our secrets on scraps of paper, smuggled from hand to hand until they are worn and smudged beyond recognition, and we must recite the words from memory, whispering them to each other like the prayers our grandmothers taught us to pray. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep if I should die before I wake. I pray the Lord my soul to take, whispering in the soft, sweet darkness of nights we thought would never end, but they do. And as dawn breaks over an American landscape we do not always recognize, we begin to wonder as artists and educators are wont to do. What would we scrawl on that piece of paper as it went from our hand to the next one, and then the next one, and on and on? Passing our best thoughts, our truest understandings, our unshakable moral convictions to the generations that will come after. In this world of shortening attention spans and viral cat videos and endless tweets, what are the eternal truths that we wish to impart? Aside from the facts and figures and specific skills needed to master a specific task like algebra or biology or the writing of a well-made play, what do we know for sure? If we could only pass on one piece of wisdom, offer only one piece of advice in which we would place our complete faith, and we had to do it in 8 seconds, what would it be? Work hard, love harder, Pay cash, buy time, not stuff. Be kind, travel light, register and vote every time. Eat your vegetables. After much deliberation, I decided the best piece of advice I could offer to anyone at any age is simply, don't lie. That's it. Just 2 words. Comes in at way under 8 seconds, so nobody will have a chance to get distracted. Don't lie. The only problem is whenever I say that, people immediately begin to offer me possible exceptions to the rule. They give me extreme examples of when lying might be required to save a life, rescue a child, or prevent a nuclear holocaust. All circumstances worthy of consideration, but the fact of the matter is most of us don't lie because our children are in peril or we are running for our lives. We lie because we want something and have convinced ourselves the lie is the best way to get it. This is always a mistake. In the theater, lies are often at the heart of the confusion and the conflict and the tragedies that invariably ensue. And in life, lies are often at the heart of the confusion and the conflict and the tragedies that invariably ensue, because the truth is the truth always and always, forever and ever, amen, no exceptions, no reasons why, and a lie is a lie is a lie. Even if you told it to avoid hurting his feelings, even if you told it to avoid breaking her heart, or because there was a lot of money on the table, or because there was the promise of sex in the air, or because you really wanted that job, that part, that solo, that promotion, that presidency. And what's one more little white lie in the larger scheme of things? Only everything. Only the beginning of the end, because there is no wisdom without truth. There is no art without truth. There is no peace without truth. There is no justice without truth. There is no love without truth. There is only fear and anger and selfishness and cruelty and violence and rape and murder and guns and war and more manifestations worldwide of that strange human idea that the one who kills the most people wins. But wins what? Absolutely nothing. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And where is that truth to be found? At the theater, of course, and at the museums, at the symphony, and the poetry slams, and the gallery openings, in the plays we write, and the paintings we produce, in the music we share, and the photographs we capture, in our insatiable human need to create art, in our boundless human desire to define our very small selves against the gigantic canvas that is the unknowable universe. That's why I write for the theater, so that there will always be a place where we can meet as Americans, where the language we speak reflects who we are right now, and our overlapping narratives reveal how much we are alike if we can just see it and be it and do the work that needs to be done. The theater, a place where the painful truths revealed in the Pulitzer Prize-winning play Disgraced are balanced by the joyful patriotism of the miracle that is Hamilton. A place where your students and my audience can see themselves up there on the stage, asking hard questions and making difficult choices and confronting moral dilemmas. A place where the arts can add flesh and bone to the lessons you are already teaching about reason and responsibility and the importance of keeping your word and getting your homework in on time. This is a moment when there is so much work for us to do. This is a moment when we have to find a way to eliminate the divisions between us and eliminate all those hyphenated Americans, African Americans, Muslim Americans, European Americans, Mexican Americans, gay Americans, trans Americans. Our challenge is to stir the famous American melting pot one more time so we can all simply be Americans. In the midst of so much division and fear and ignorance, we are the ones who have to find a new story and a new song that we can all lift our voices to sing. A new national narrative that weaves all our stories together into one amazing story that we can first tell each other and then our children and their children and the ones who come after and the ones who come after that. Because these stories, these pictures, these artifacts that tell the stories of our tribe are what we will leave behind to tell the future who we were and what we valued in ourselves and in our neighbors. Historians can tell you what happened and when, but they need artists to tell you how it felt to be there. Scientists can tell you how to calculate the distance between the Earth and the full moon, but they need a poet to describe its effect on the human heart. Because it is still that moment when we would rather reduce our reality to the size of tiny screens than admit that life is bigger than that, and louder than that, and messier and more colorful than that, and filled to bursting with bright, shiny, complicated human possibilities, and not simply the limitless and limiting capabilities of machines and media. This is a moment when there are so many ways for us to attack each other without ever laying eyes on each other, without ever engaging in the give and take that move us closer to where the truth is found. It is hard to find the truth when you've only got 140 characters to work with. It's hard to hear the truth when legions of angry, shouting people are looking for their angry, shouting tribes around the world and finding them in places that show you why and when and where to find the mayhem or how to make it. Because we are gaining momentum whether we like it or not. We are picking up speed, glancing at each other reflected in the rearview mirror and hoping we are not actually closer than we appear. Wishing we had more time to prepare. Hoping we are going fast enough to get there wherever it is in time to call the spirits in this moment when we are addicted to speed but increasingly unclear about destinations. A moment when to question whether faster is always better than deeper or wider or sweeter or slow as molasses is to be branded hopelessly old-fashioned, technophobic and out of touch, like taking the time to call the spirits in. Because we are now required to hit the ground running, eyes wide open, arms outstretched, filled with longing and wonder, courage and confusion, because they say it is a rat race, because they say it is a dog-eat-dog world, because they say the city we live in is too busy to hate, so we better keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. We better hit the ground running. And don't stop till you get enough, till you reach the top, till you catch whatever you are chasing, or whatever you are chasing catches you. Because busy is its own requirement and its own reward. But what if I don't want to hit the ground running? What if I'd rather hit the ground dancing? What if I don't want to hit the ground at all? What if I don't want to hit anything or anybody? Not now, not ever. What if shooting people is also out of the question, especially unarmed people? Also stabbing, shaking, bombing, beating, raping, torturing, or killing in the name of whatever it is in us that requires blood sacrifice as proof of faith or fealty. What if I don't want busyness to be the only reason I don't hate you or you don't hate me? What if I want that to be because I love you instead? Because I respect you instead? Because I embrace you instead? Because even though busyness is its own reward, love is the only answer to every question that is worth asking. That and yes. So shall we call the spirits in? Yes. Shall we write and dance and teach and sing and play and paint as if our lives depended on it because they do? Yes. Shall we trust the ancestors enough to decode and translate those ancient drawings on a dry cave wall so another generation can discover that the things that really matter don't ever change? Yes. Shall we create the language to tell the truth and hear the truth and make the change and be the change and call in the spirits of hope and freedom and peace and love and magic? Always, always a little magic. Because there is still a need for magic in our age of unstoppable momentum. Because magic requires not only the willing suspension of disbelief, but the passionate embrace of the possibility that maybe, just maybe, it all might be real. The rabbit might actually have a home in that tattered top hat. The smiling woman may be sawed in half and returned to wholeness without ever shedding tears or blood. Can we admit that sometimes it might be real? Yes. Because the transformation we are seeking is at the heart of what it means to be human, to be fully and completely alive from 5 to 15 to 50 to 150. The tradition we must embrace is one that not only recognizes the undeniable link between culture and community, between art and science, between STEM and STEAM, but exposes it, explores it, explodes it into 1,000 pieces and reconfigures it as something brand new, something born of this very moment, while also stretching back as far as those paintings on that dry cave wall. Because poet Amiri Baraka was right when he said, if the beautiful see themselves, they will love themselves. Which is just another way of saying, if we see ourselves, we will be ourselves, but a little better, a little truer, a little deeper. Way back in 1991, playwright Terrence McNally said, if you don't believe that the theater specifically, and the arts generally, have the ability to make us better people, and by better, I mean more caring, more informed, more passionately committed human beings, then there is going to be very little dialogue between us, end quote. I love that more every time I read it. I love the expansive, open-ended, all-inclusive nature in it. He's talking about humans entering fully into the international flow of ideas and culture, because that is where we will find our shared stories, our overlapping narratives, our global village. He's talking about trying to save the planet by believing against all odds and much evidence to the contrary that most people are good. And when they see the truth, they open their arms to it like a toddler encountering the ocean for the very first time. At the heart of what I love about the theater is that it is a ritual, an ancient calling forth of spirits, a cleansing, a catharsis, a baptism in laughter or in tears that magically transforms us and brings us closer to our fragile, flawed, fabulous, shimmering selves. And when the magic works, it also brings us closer to each other as a community of seekers, closer to the spirit that binds us and finds us for just that one brief moment, gathered together in the presence of the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And all we have to say is yes, yes, yes. Thank you. To be with you. I am asked to let you know that you can now go to whatever your next activity is. I will do a little tap dance, but I'm not good at that. So thank you so much for sharing this time with me, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you.